So we have Sidney, correct?
Yeah, Sidney.
28 pounds, year and a half, mini Bernedoodle. Um, yeah, so go ahead and tell me or fill me in on Sidney.
Where to start? No, she's generally awesome. She is like really friendly, really sweet. Not too many concerns per se. I think the main ones have to do with just like her attachment to us. We kind of let go of crate training at a young age. She was really, really solid for probably the first 6 months of her life. And then we just kind of let it slide. So now as things are reopening, we're like having trouble like getting away from her in the nicest way possible. So we want to make sure we do that in a thoughtful way. Other than that, I think there have been some like little behaviors that we want help with. She like runs away when you try and put her harness on, and she kind of compulsively licks her lately, her paws. She's been doing it, but it's been other places lately or in the past. And then just some like leash behaviors. She's again like generally a pretty good dog. I think we're just trying to like nip some stuff in the bud before it gets out of hand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, anything else that you know about Sydney?
No, I mean she's little. She's like she's kind of gets barky sometimes.
Okay.
I don't know how to describe her. She's funny.
Okay.
She's really sweet. She's generally like not a little bit shy.
I'm sorry, what? I can't hear you.
A little bit shy sometimes when meeting new people.
Okay.
But in a little protective of us. But overall, just a sweetie.
Okay. So the crate training, what is she doing now, or like what do you see?
So we, like I said, for probably a year, we just like she didn't get crated at all. We pretty much like were never not with her. Now she goes to daycare some days, but then we've been trying to reintroduce her to her crate by like doing like 15-minute or 30-minute intervals, like putting treats in there, making it good for her. She's gotten better with it where I think she likes the crate because like we can be in the room with her and she's in her crate and she is quiet and like happy. Then when we've started leaving the room and then she has started barking. So I think it's more of an issue of like being away from people. She's always around people.
Okay. And then
and it is great.
Do you guys live like do you guys have like is it an apartment where you have upstairs and downstairs neighbors? Okay.
Oh no, we have downstairs neighbors, but then we don't have upstairs neighbors.
Okay. Yeah, we're telling all our COVID dog owners, to practice crate training, or separation if you were to have like if we were to go back to like normalcy, right? So if you had a 9 to 5 job, you start practicing crate time for Sydney and having her in a crate in a different room, 9 to 5, right? And then you can do like a potty break in the middle, but you can just dive right into it. You don't have to do like an hour here and then like take her a break.
Really?
2 hours. You can just go straight into it. Going into your 9 to 5 schedule, however life would look like, just so you're starting to get like really into it, right? Dogs have a harder time being separated from the owner in a crate in another room because they know you're there. So if you start working through it now, since she already has like some familiarity, that's one way. Or since you have neighbors, because it's just at this point, it's just letting her bark it out, and then just like having her just like, okay, this is not getting me anywhere. And then she has all that other time to realize it doesn't get her anywhere, right? But since you have neighbors, that's where it makes it difficult, because if she's gonna bark, we don't know how long she'll be barking for,
We're separated by a floor, so I don't think that they can hear it.
It's pretty loud.
She has a high decibel bark.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, maybe they hear it.
Yeah. So whatever your work schedule will look like, or whatever, you know, life would look like without a pandemic, I'd just start getting her used to that, right?
Mhm.
Creating her from, you know, when you would leave to work till when you come home.
So you don't need to like ease them into it. Like they don't know the concept of like time.
No, because
Okay.
because what can also be happening is if you're letting her out too quickly, she might think that the barking is making her rewarding her for some reason, in a way, not for some reason, in a way, but definitely just go straight to 9 to 5, you know. Um, what else? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think so with all the changes, I was worried or we were worried that was like bringing about some of the more like impulsive, like licking and stuff, like
Oh
causing
yeah,
her anxiety.
yeah. That's just anxious behavior. It's just she's just like maybe under stress, or maybe there's, you know, she's just anxious, right?
Mhm.
So that can be addressed. Now for the crate stuff and everything, like I'm just telling you ways to you can go about it. Like there's no right or wrong with crate training. Like, you know, an owner can live in like an apartment with neighbors left, right, up and down, so they can't really do what we're kind of wanting them to do because they'll get the noise complaint and everything like that. So then, you know, we'll give them other options, like, you know, maybe make a little playpen in like the kitchen,
Mhm.
right? And then we ask them, you know, did it work? And like, yeah, she's quiet. She likes being in the kitchen, right? Is it the way we want to address it? No, because we like to go head on. But if that works for that person, like, there's no right or wrong, you know? So that's just an idea for you to kind of try out if you like.
Mhm.
Um, and the licking is just like you said, it's a little bit of anxiety there, um, which we can cover through the program. Um, and then you said the leash walking. So like, I think you said something about like she'll lay down when she sees a dog, or like she'll like,
She's funny. Like it's kind of like if she doesn't want to go where you're going, she'll just like lay down. It's like she'll just stop.
oh,
Like, and it might have to do with attachment. Like when he tries to bring her out, she'll just like lay down and won't keep walking.
yeah,
Um,
on the harness, right?
yeah,
Okay.
I can show you the harness if that's helpful too. Would that be helpful?
Is it like a front clip or is it a back clip, or what do you
It,
guys use it?
she puts her feet in it and then it's like it clips in here.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Um, so she just kind of like just puts the brakes on, doesn't want to move.
Yeah.
Um, and then if you were to have everything you'd want with Sydney, so if you addressed, you know, the leash walking, the anxious behaviors, and the separation anxiety, the crate, what would life look like with Sydney? Like, do you guys, you know, do you guys just take her for a lot of walk? You want to take her for a lot of walks, or like, you know, the patio restaurants, or off leash hiking? Do you see you guys hiking a lot with her, or what does life look like if you were to have everything you want with Sydney?
She's pretty good. So, like from a young age, I kind of brought her a lot of places. So she's really good on patios for the most part. She's good on hikes. I think the main thing is like I want her to feel more comfortable and me more comfortable because she like chases me around the house. You can just tell that she's not comfortable unless like she's with me. And
Oh,
I want her to have a life where she can like I don't know, not because like I'm gonna start going places and I don't want her to be distressed. So I think I would want us to both just feel a little bit more free.
yeah, definitely. Then the crate training in a different room would help, because that's also it's addressing separation anxiety and the crate training. Because
Mhm.
like I said, it's harder for dogs to be in a separate room when you're there in a crate. Once everything goes back to normal, the only thing that will change is just you guys are leaving. That's all. It'll make it a lot easier. um, and then we can also address certain behaviors in the crate, like say she decides to lick herself in the crate, that can be addressed.
Yeah.
And that's also like,
We like aren't quite sure how to handle that. Like if you just are supposed to intervene and
yeah,
stop the behavior, if that causes more anxiety, that's been a tough one.
yeah. Um, yeah. So, how much control are you looking to to have Sydney, like command wise? Like, are you just looking for like just the basic leash walking and then like a recall, or just like what are you looking for command wise?
Yeah, it'd be nice to have more like, I don't think she knows heel. Like heel would be really nice. It would just be nice. I kind of never know what she's gonna do. Like sometimes she lays down when she sees another dog. Sometimes she jumps and barks. Like I would just like to be able to like have a lot of control in those situations, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So I asked these questions just to kind of get an idea of like what program would be best suited for you. Because we're not going to give you like a program where like, oh, we're going to teach you this command. Then you're like, well, we would never really use that. But okay,
Yeah.
So whatever you guys are needing and wanting is what we'll give you. Um, okay. So the harness um, is not the best tool we recommend. So do you guys know how we train, like the methods we use and everything, or like the tools we use?
Not really.
So we're mostly e-collar and prong collar, I guess, trainers, right? So we have like all these other tools, right? Like, this e-collar, prong collar, harness, gentle leader, flat collar. What else is there? That's pretty much it. So then, and then there's also methods like, positive only, or like, the balance trainers and everything like that. We call ourselves balance trainers, right? So we have the harness. The reason why we don't train with harnesses, right? They're meant, everything is a training tool, right? But they're all meant for specific reasons, right? Harnesses are meant for pulling, right? Dogs have what's called an opposition reflex. So like when you pull back, they pull forward. When you pull left, they pull right. When you pull right, they pull left. So Huskies, they're on harnesses because we need them to pull. In protection training, we put harnesses on the dogs to make them aggressive, right? So when an owner gets a puppy and they start off with the harness, and you have an opposite, you have a dog that wants to go back with the pressure, but you're trying to pull forward. But usually the owners will have like the dog who wants to pull forward, but they need to pull back, right? So when the puppy's doing that, right, this pressure here is negative pressure. It's uncomfortable. It's annoying, right? So if Sydney, for example, was pulling as she was a puppy, she wants to get to another dog, you just pull away and just keep walking, right? But Sydney is getting this negative and she's seeing this dog. So she's tying the two together, right? So as time goes on, she sees a dog, she feels pressure, she's going to start getting frustrated. And sometimes that's where reactivity comes from, because it's frustration, because they want to get to the dog, you pull them back, they want to go forward, so it's like conflicting here. As time goes on, it turns to like, they vocalize it now, so it's barking and lunging and everything. And then some cases it can turn to aggression, because now it's like every time I see a dog, I get this feeling I hate dogs. So in protection training, the way we teach it is we pull back and then we release. We pull, release, we pull, release. So it's like they're going back and forth. It's very annoying. And then we have the aggressor across from us. And once we get enough frustration, we let go, and then the dog just, does his thing, right? So it's used for certain activities, and it's good for those activities. But for teaching a dog to walk like in heel with it is not going to work. So like you'll see like the little stickers or like the advertisement where it says a no pull harness, right? It's technically an oxymoron, because harnesses are meant to pull. There's no such thing, right? Um, then then we move on to like the gentle leader, where it's the leash that goes around the nose and like the cups behind, right? So that's a good tool, because for puppies especially, because then you're avoiding trachea collapsing here, and the harness, you're avoiding creating frustration, and you have more control here, right? So if like your puppy's like a scavenger on the ground, these walks, you could just pull away and they just pull back, or if they're pulling, you pull back and their head just turns like that. Um, so it's good for like controlling puppies. As a dog gets older, though, sometimes it's not enough, because you need a way to kind of address behaviors. And the gentle leader isn't a correctional tool. It's just like another leash, like a flat collar. And then you move on to prong collar, right? Prong collar is a good step forward, just because now you can correct your dog. Right? So dogs are physical animals. When they're stressed, or if they're frustrated, or maybe if they want to like address something, like maybe like Sydney's at the dog park and like she's messing around with this older dog, and this older dog's just not having it. What do you think the older dog will do to kind of get Sydney to go away?
Nip at her, probably.
Exactly, yeah. So um, dogs don't give each other treats. They don't say, "Hey, don't do that, please," and then like they don't do it. Like, "Oh, here's a treat, good job." No, it's just you're doing this. I don't like it. There's going to be a consequence for that, right? And it's through the mouth. So when they're stressed, they drool, or like you'll see like dogs who have anxious or have anxiety are salivating, or like they do the licking. Um, you know, panting when they're stressed. They like pant a lot. Like it looks like they ran a marathon, but they're just stressed. Um, they do a lot of stuff with their mouth. So prong collar, the spiky collar, right, is supposed to mimic a dog bite. So that's where you see a little bit of success with that because it's physical, it's their language, so they understand what it means, right? The only issue with prong collars, sometimes that tool, when you take off it's hard to teach recall of prong collar, right? Because for us, recall is not recall if it's not off leash trained, right? There's no point of recall if you can't recall your dog without the leash, right? So for a prong collar, once you take off the leash, you've lost all control, right? Um, Sometimes another issue is like, especially like for golden retrievers and like the happy-go-lucky dogs, like golden retrievers and pitties, they're more intense, right? Sometimes golden retrievers are so like happy-go-lucky, they don't perceive like threat, right? So when you get a prong call on a golden, sometimes it's not enough pressure to kind of cut the brain of excitement. They're so wiggly, and then the prong call is just not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not strong enough. You also get the issue of like, partner number one, when they use a prong collar, they're a little firmer, right? They're a little stronger,
Yeah.
right? But then partner number two uses a prong collar, they're a little softer with it. So then that's where you get also another conflict there is like, stronger, who's going to have more control based on, who's stronger or whatever, or stricter. And then we move on to e-collar. What do you guys know about e-collar or electronic collars?
Are those like what electronic fence sort of?
Yeah, it's similar. Electronic fence has like a different feeling, but have you guys ever been to a physical therapist?
Yeah, the electrode things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that it's called TENS unit. So that same technology they use on humans is what's on a e-collar, right? It's just a muscle contractor. So the way physical therapists go about it, I believe, is that when they have the machine on, they tell you, or they start going up in the levels, and then they'll tell the client, tell me when it's too much or uncomfortable. Once they get to a level where it's too uncomfortable, they go 2 levels down and they let the machine do its work. Very similar to the way we use e-collars on dogs. Like I said, it's a TENS unit on a collar. Uh, it's just a muscle contractor. Uh, Jesse likes to call it collar electric, but not electricity.
Mhm.
So it's a little box and it has 2 contact points sticking out, like these little 2 points. So if it's on the neck here, it's only affecting this area. It doesn't go through the body. Does it make sense? So if I had it in my hand and I kept going up in the numbers, eventually you'll see my thumb twitch.
Mhm.
Can I get uncomfortable? Yes. The brand we use is called Dogtra. This brand has 127 levels on the collar, right? There are other brands out there that have like maybe 10, right? Cheaper, not good quality collars have 10 levels. Think of their 10th level equal to our 127. We just have so many more other numbers to kind of be more specific to the dog, personality, breed, scenario. So the issue with the 10 level collars, like you'll be at 5, it's too much. The dog's yelping. 4, the dog doesn't really perceive it, or he doesn't. There's no perception there, right? So then that's where they get stuck. For us, if 50 is too much, 40 is too low, we can go to 45. Simple as that. They're waterproof, they're rechargeable, they have a mile to a half-mile long range. They're used for hunting dogs. That's where like that's where they built their company off of hunting dogs, right? Um, Any questions so far? So as I was going through like the tools, the reason why we land on e-collar and why we don't even bother, like if we get a dog that's 6 months and older, that's when we start e-collar training, right? We don't bother with these other tools because we already know that the ceiling of success is so low, right? E-collar is the only tool that has gotten us to at least 90 to 100% of reliable obedience, right? Because once we take the leash off, we still have control. It's physical, so it's their language. They understand it. That's why we get super fast results. Um, what else? It boosts confidence in some dogs. It's quick, it's easy. You're just pressing a button, right? There's no confront. There's no like. You're not being like confrontational to your dog. Like for a prong collar, sometimes you need to physically like do a leash pop to correct the dog, right? And the dog is seeing you do that, so he's they're seeing you do it, right? But the e-collar, they don't know you're doing it. You're just pressing a button. They're thinking it's like the universe or something like that. They don't know it's you. They'll never associate it.
Perfect.
So it's there's a lot of less confrontation, a lot less conflict, a lot less arguing, right? With Sidney. Um, but anything else so far? Any questions?
So that's interesting because like all the books I feel like we read when we got her are just like so positive reinforcement based, but what you're saying is like for either for certain behaviors or after a certain age that doesn't really do the trick.
Yeah, so positive only is good for only things you want to see again, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes like years to kind of just be only food, right? Then, Sidney will probably look at a dog like, there's a dog, mom's got a ham, right? I can get that ham later, but this dog is gonna be on. So I'm gonna choose the dog. So sometimes that happens. Anxiety, food isn't really good for anxiety because we don't want to see anxiety. So then if we're using food, we're telling her, good girl, be anxious. So it's kind of there. But yeah, positive. We use positive only as well. We'll use food during e-collar training and stuff like that. But yeah, 6 months and over. The reason why we jump to e-collar is because the brain is able to kind of process it more of like this new correctional tool, right? Also, sometimes owners will just by then they've had enough. Like, fine, we'll do e-collar training. And we've done it younger. 4 months. We've done it with a 4-month-old puppy, a Doberman, and she was here for 4 weeks. And by the end of her 4 weeks, she was completely just off trained. Like this little puppy was just off leash trained. It was really cool. But yeah, there's all dogs 6 months and over, they're on e-collar with us. Whether it's whether they're a timid, fearful dog, they're on e-collar. Or if they're happy-go-lucky dog, they're on e-collar. Deaf dogs are on e-collar. Blind dogs, we taught blind dogs on e-collar as well. Puppies, older dogs, like I think there's like a dog here that was like 12 that wanted the e-collar training. So yeah, it's a it's a good tool. It's transferable. So like when we work with couples, and like partner number one usually does all the hard work, right? Once they hand the leash off to partner number two, right, they're doing nothing because the hard work has already been done. Because when uh, Colleen and I'm sorry, Henry, yeah. So when Henry, right, does all the hard work and he's pressing the button on 30, then you do your work and you're pressing the button on 30, it's 30, right? When he presses it and you press it on 30, it's the equal, it's like the same.
Yeah. I think that's what she needs is consistency.
Exactly. Yeah. Then it also allows you both to be more consistent with your walks if they're going to be separated or anything like that. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. So were you guys looking for like an in-person or a board and train or a daycare and train, or did you want me to go through the programs for you, or?
I don't know what exactly we're looking for. I think it would be nice. A board and train might be good at some point, but I think it would be nice to be involved in the training just so we can like learn and be able to replicate it. So.
Yeah. So I'll go through the programs to kind of explain like what they kind of entail. In person is one-on-one. We meet at Oz Park, or we can do it in home. But we're operating at Oz Park. Are you guys familiar with Oz Park?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's super busy there. So if you can train a dog at Oz Park, I'm pretty sure you can train a dog anywhere. one-on-one, we meet, for example, Sunday, 1 p.m. for however many days or the program you choose, right? So, for example, this 6 week program is like I walk Sydney around the block, I take her to the dog park, I need recall, and I go home. The 9 week is I walk her, I need recall to call her back, and then I like to go to patios and I need her to stay in a down command, right, and not move for 2.5 hours or whatever. The 12 week is all of those things, and then you go off leash hiking.
Mm.
Um, so it sounds like you're either like the 6 or 9 week, depending on how much control you're wanting, right? So say you choose the 6 week, 6 Sundays, 1 p.m., or actually no, 7 Sundays, 7 Sundays at 1 p.m., right? You get that extra Sunday in case something happens, like a cancellation, like a range or something. You have that extra time slot that no one can take away from you. Um, and we'll meet at Oz or like in home or whatever works best for you. One-on-one, pros and cons. Cons, it takes longer. Pros, well, cons because we give you one topic a week to kind of focus on that so we don't overwhelm you with information. Pros, you're doing all the work. So it's verbal instruction. We don't touch the dogs. We just tell you what to do this, do this, do this. And then you're kind of troubleshooting it yourself. You're doing all the hard work. You're seeing it from, beginning to end, and you're just doing everything yourself. um, any questions about the in-person training?
I think that probably sounds like what we'd want to do.
Then we have daycare and train. So daycare and train is when you drop off Sydney for like a regular day of daycare, right? So 7 to 10, we drop her off, and we just train her, right? Sometimes it's either like the first 2 days we teach every command in those 2 days, right? We have bundles for those, so it goes 5, 10, 15, 20. You'd be in more like the 10-day range, I believe. Like I said, just depending how much control you'd like. So 10 days, you'd probably get like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you don't come on a Wednesday, you won't lose a day because you bought a bundle, right? It's just whenever you want to come. Everything is recorded for you, so it'll be me most likely doing the videos. So you're seeing me kind of put the e-collar on Sydney, walking her through it, doing all the commands, explaining like what we're seeing, how we kind of go through it, and everything like that. All the explanatory first lessons are recorded, and once they're uploaded and edited together, compiled into one video, they're sent out to you, and you can watch. As soon as you get your video, you can start practicing. So let's say you start practicing, and then everything's going good, and then she finishes her program. Then we can schedule a follow-up, right? A one-on-one, and then depending on which program you choose, you get a certain amount of hours in your follow-up. So we schedule a follow-up. How's everything going? And everything's going good, except this is kind of we're having trouble with this command or something like that, or this behavior, and we help you through that. Board and train is very similar, except you're just leaving her overnight for like a 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, or 4 week program. Like you'd probably be more like the 2 week range, I believe. Um, everything's recorded. We have more time to kind of work with Sydney, so then we can also take her to like Home Depot, PetSmart, and transfer the training here to real life scenarios, because there's no point of the training if it's not functional outside of our facility. And then for daycare and board training, she gets to play with dogs, she gets playtime. We have treadmills here, we can teach her how to walk on a treadmill. We have little placemats, you can do her duration work of just like these little beds where we'll have the dogs who are e-collar trained just like lay on the beds and just kind of like watch everything go by and just kind of like have to stay on this bed and just be relaxed. Pros and cons for those programs is that we get it done faster, right? So the 2 week program of board and train is equal to like the 9 week or like the 6 week of in person, right? So we get it done faster. Cons is that the training is tied to us first, but that's what the follow-ups are there for, to kind of transfer everything to you. Like earlier I said, e-collar is very transferable, so there shouldn't be an issue of like, oh, when the trainer's here, Sydney behaves, but when the trainer leaves, Sydney goes back to her old ways, right? Because when I press the button on 30 and you press the button on 30, it's the same thing. Any questions so far? Okay. Um, so yeah, it's just a kind of personal preference, right? You have a pretty simple case. Um, you're just looking for like the basics. It sounds like, and then just a little bit of the anxiety, which we can cover here, and the crate training here as well. Ba, 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 ba. Some other common questions owners have about the e-collar is like, would the e-collar be on all day, or like is it, do I go to the program, do the e-collar training, and then it's just like, does the e-collar go away some point? So it's on when you need it. So if you're going to go for a walk, it will be on because we can't predict what's going to happen on this walk, right? So if we're walking on a busy street and like a car crash happens right next to us, right? Sometimes dogs will get surprised and they'll go into flight mode, right? So flight mode for dogs is like kill or be killed, right? So no Sydney calm or like little ham is going to bring her back. It's going to take power to override the brain of flight mode, right? So there's been incidents where we've heard like stories of like something happens and the owner gets caught off guard because the dog pulls out all of a sudden, and they get like pulled to the ground, like they get like bruised face and everything. The dog's already like gone, right? So it's on just because we can't predict what's going to happen this walk, slipping out the collar or stuff like that. Um, let's say in home, um, she's an angel, right? You don't need it. Let's say when guests come over, she tends to like get super excited and then jump, right? You call her up 20, 30 minutes prior, address whatever that needs to be addressed. And then if you find that she's settled throughout the rest of the night, then you can take it off. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another question is, how come when I take the e-collar off, Sydney goes back to like jumping on people or like, pulling again, right? Um, it's called it's called opportunistic behavior. Do you guys drive on the highway?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know the speed limit?
Nope.
And then what happens when we see a squad car?
I set my cruise control to whatever it is.
Yeah, so we're taking advantage of, if they're not there, no authorities here, then we're gonna get away with it, right? Opportunistic behavior, it's a nature thing. It's has nothing to do with the training, the e-collar, the way you guys practice. It's just nature, right? So like Jesse likes to call the e-collar a cop on a collar, right? When it's present, she's like, okay, she goes, but then when it goes away, she's like, all right, I'm gonna speed up again. All dogs are different as well. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it happens right away. They get it really fast. Um, and with the anxiety, um, like I said before, flight mode, we need to override it, right? So think of anxiety for dogs like, let's say I guess like me, for example, like say I have back when I was in high school or whatever, like I had a secret party, right? And then like I get the phone call like, oh, hi honey, it's my mom. We're gonna be coming home a little earlier than we planned to. And I'm like, oh no, I'm freaking out. I'm like, my mom's gonna kill me. I'm gonna get all this stuff taken away and blah 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 blah. And then like a friend comes to me and goes like, like snaps in front of my face, like, hey, it'll be okay. We're gonna get through it. We're just gonna do this, this, this. And I'm like, okay. So that's where the e-car comes to play, just to kind of cut the brain out of this mind state, because and her being stuck in an anxious mind state, right, is unhealthy, right? So we need to cut the brain out of that state, right? What we also might see is, since that anxiety is her stress response, like it comes out more when she's stressed, we might see it come out in the training, right? Because e-collar is a stressor. No one likes being disciplined, right? So when we're training, we might see more anxiety come out, right? E-collar isn't making your dog anxious. Your dog was already anxious, right? We're just seeing it in response to the stressor, right? So once we work her through that, like moments of anxiety, after we get over that hump, that's when we start to see a lot of progress, and like she's gonna be like, oh, that's all it does, right? Um,
Like he tends to think that she feels a little responsible for my well-being, and so like gets stressed like to make sure that I'm okay, sort of thing. So I don't know, I just want her to feel like she doesn't have to be
Oh,
my
like she's feeding off your energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
or like protecting me.
Yeah, sometimes, like we'll get the dogs who for daycare or like they're barking and they're all looking aggressive, everything when the owner's here. And then we tell the owner, just put the dog in the crate and then you can head out. And then as soon as they leave, dogs like all wiggly, like a changed dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it happens, but um, that's where like the tool comes in handy because it's like no words, no conversation, it's just a
A
button.
rewire.
Exactly, just a button to kind of just settle her down, right? Um, like e-collar is used for many things. Like we can calm dogs down and to have like car anxiety when they're like really stressed in the car. We can settle them down with the e-collar, just make them they'll like literally fall asleep once we start settling them down. Does it make sense? And then leash pulling is addressed with the way we teach e-collar. So 2 classes on heel if for in person, right? 2 classes on heel, 2 classes recall, and then whatever program you choose is kind of like wiggle room to see how the anxiety is doing and like the leash pulling is doing. And then if everything's going well, we can teach you 2 stationary commands. So that's 6, right? If you choose a 9-week, we can teach you more stationary commands to kind of advance it, make it more, um, not fancy, but more, just give you more stuff, right? so um, So leash pulling. Thank you, sir. And then sometimes behaviors go away. So sometimes owners have an issue where like they take their dog for like an hour long walk. Like, wow, we did a long walk, or maybe even longer. And they come home and like dog is still wired up. Like they're still running around and everything like that. That will be fixed as well. It's called overstimulation. It's like when you take the dog out, they're kind of all over the place,
She
right?
definitely gets that.
Yeah. So
Like
sometimes
every time we walk in the house, she's like, ah!
Yeah, sometimes overstimulation just goes away with the training. It just goes away because the way we teach heel, right? Although it's obedience, um, do you guys know the difference between obedience and behavior?
Mm-mm.
So for humans, think of it as the obedience like math, science, English, right? And then behaviors, don't steal, don't cheat, don't lie, right? You wouldn't teach a murderer math skills to kind of become a better person, right? That doesn't work like that. So you can have a bad person, a good student, or a good student and a bad person. So for dogs, um, owners ask, why would the heal command help, these other behaviors? Is because the method or like the idea behind the heal is that Sidney will become so focused on where you're going, right, that nothing else will matter.
Yeah.
So that's like the idea behind it. And we're also giving her a job so that she's having something to focus on. And it's mentally exhausting to kind of put that much focus on whoever's walking her, right? So it's more of a tiring walk. It's more, it's healthy. It's a lot of structure. Structure is good for dogs. So we're applying structure on the walk, which is good for Sidney. So yeah, any questions?
No, she really likes, I think she'll like the more structure. She really likes to learn. Like the couple commands we've taught, she's like, gets really excited.
Yeah, cool. So after this consultation, I'll send you guys a follow-up email about the programs we talked about, the pricings, um, what a payment plan would look like, the e-collar I recommend for Sidney. You can purchase through Amazon. I'll send you a link to the Amazon, or you can purchase through us. It's up to you, personal preference, same price. And then I'll also send you a form. It's like an agreement thing where you need to sign. Once that is signed, we can begin billing and booking. So whenever you're ready, sign the form, and then I'll reach out. Or sometimes I'll miss the form. I don't know. We're still trying to figure it out. But once you sign the form, let me know. Like, hey, Enrique, we're ready to start. And we can begin billing and booking. Um, um, you'd want to pick up a regular collar and a regular leash. Since, like before, I said harnesses promote pulling, and since we're trying to or like, it causes opposition reflex. So she wants to move back when we pull forward. We're kind of confusing her because one tool, e-collar, is telling her to not do that. The other tool, harness, is telling her to do that. So it's kind of getting confusing for the dogs. So we like to just have the standard, regular, flat buckle collar, not the snap ones, like the buckle, right? Not the snap ones, because those break. We've had a lot of instances where they just snap off, right? So the ones that go in the loop and they buckle and everything like a belt is the ones we like to use. Anything else or any?
So, no, super helpful.
Like I said, I'll send you the follow-up email with the program so you can see them all laid out and everything for you. If that is all, I'm trying to see if I missed anything. But yeah, let me know. Think about it. What you guys want to do, and whenever you're ready, we are getting busier at the boarding trains. We're booked for a while. Yeah.
Lots of these quarantine pubs.
Yeah. But other than that, it was very nice speaking with you, Colleen and Henry. So yeah, keep an eye out for the follow-up email. And if any questions arise or if anything pops up, like another question, just feel free to email me and I'll answer the question.
Sounds good.
Cool. Awesome.
Thanks for your time.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Take it easy.
Take care. Bye.